Hello, my name is Lucile Sarran, and I just completed an industrial PhD together with Saint-Gobain and the Technical University of Denmark. The project was funded by Innovation Fund, Realdania, and Blocks Hub. And the goal of the project was to work towards more user-centered low-energy homes, and I will present some of the findings today. So the background for the project is the green transition, and in particular, the need to decrease energy use in buildings. Building regulations are becoming stricter and stricter, and we see the spread of new and retrofitted buildings that look like this, with highly insulated and airtight facades and large triple glazed windows. However, there is a performance gap between the way these buildings are designed and simulated and the way they perform in reality. And this is true both in terms of energy use and in terms of comfort and occupant satisfaction, as research shows. And one of the reasons for this is that the building industry doesn't actually get much feedback and doesn't really know how buildings are used and experienced. And that is particularly true for the technical installations in these buildings. These homes usually feature mechanical ventilation with heat recovery and heating systems such as floor heating systems. And those may be new and complicated for users. So we don't really know how they use them, how they experience them, how they understand them. And that is the background for this project, which aims to answer the following questions. How is it actually to live in a low energy home with mechanical ventilation and floor heating? Are occupants comfortable? Are they satisfied? And if not, what could we do better? So it is about getting a deep dive into occupants' perspectives onto their low energy homes. To do so, we looked at two cases in the Copenhagen area. One is a large social housing complex with about 2,000 houses, some of them being retrofitted before the study and some after. And the other case is a new neighborhood of Copenhagen made of high-end owner-occupied low-energy apartments. So two cases for this investigation. And this project was interdisciplinary because we had some quantitative methods in the form of a survey in the social housing complex, and then some qualitative methods in the forms of interview, which we did together with the Institute of Anthropology at Copenhagen University. So by combining these two, we could actually get a wide and deep picture of occupants' needs and feelings. And one thing they communicated quite clearly was that the indoor climate had actually improved from their older houses. This was true both in the case of thermal comfort in winter, but also in the case of indoor air quality, and in particular, humidity was a lot more satisfactory in the new and retrofitted homes. However, another finding was that many heating and mechanical ventilation installations suffered from a number of faults when occupants moved in, and that came from the dimensioning, installation phase, or from wrong presettings. And this resulted in discomfort, for example, in case of noise or draft from ventilation diffusers, or in some cases, energy waste. Some of these installations, and in particular mechanical ventilation systems, were highly automated with no possibility for users to control them. And this was well accepted in normal conditions, but in case of faulty operation, occupants actually felt frustrated by the lack of available control options and that they did not really know how to deal with these systems. And that was even more true because they lacked information and guidance on how to operate these systems. This was both in terms of whether the systems worked as intended and not, and also about how to operate them in the most efficient way. So they kind of felt like the technical installations were a bit of a black box. And when all of these things were combined, the installations suffered from faults. It was difficult to control them because there was no available interface and there was little information about them. Then people were taking control in their own ways. So we have seen some ventilation diffusers that were taped or with cotton in them, and that's of course very detrimental for people's health and comfort. So as we can see, there is room for improvement in low energy homes, and we have highlighted two main tracks. One would be fault detection. Can we actually detect and correct faults before they become problematic? And the other track would be supplementary work on usability and transparency of these technical installations. As to fault detection, I have made an experiment or an investigation where we took data from thermostats and from other mainstream sensors and included them into a general model of a heating system. And to do so, we were able to detect faults in the heating system, and we could also search an optimal operating point. And more generally, monitoring the performance of buildings in use and surveying their occupants, it's actually critical to make sure that buildings perform as intended and that occupants are comfortable and satisfied. And currently, there is little incentive to do so in the building industry. Therefore, it may be necessary to include these as a requirement in future building standards. The information on the real performance of low-energy dwellings should then make its way back to the design teams. And by getting feedback on the consequences of their design in real life, engineers can learn from their mistakes and they can apply this knowledge in their next project, thereby reducing the performance gap that we can see in low-energy dwellings. Usability and availability of technical guidance should become key design criteria, and that probably means that they should be integrated in most building regulations. They are currently part of some voluntary rating schemes, but those have a limited outreach, and we would like to see that much bigger into building regulations. But this actually requires to rethink the way we represent users in the building process, because what users want and the way engineers think of users is they need to be thermally comfortable, to have a good indoor air quality, a good visual and acoustic comfort. And that's the basis for dimensioning building systems today. But in reality, users want many more things from their building systems. They want them to be transparent, they want them to be usable, reliable, convenient, and they want their homes to feel cozy, they want them to be clean, they want it to be a good place to raise a family. So taking into consideration this holistic perspective is essential to design homes that work for people in real life. Thank you very much for your attention. These are all the partners and sponsors of this project. You're more than welcome to contact me if you want to hear more or if you're interested in these topics. I have a new email address and you can also find me on LinkedIn. Thank you very much for your attention.